He didn't just cross the line, he erased it. One moment, the arena was breathing, alive, loud, electric, and the next, it felt like something snapped. Not a moment, not a mistake. Something deeper, something colder. And at the center of it all stood Randy Orton, staring through Matt Cardona like he wasn't even human. Because this wasn't a match. This wasn't competition. This was a message. And the scary part? Nobody in that building knew who it was really meant for. Before anything even happened, the tension was already unbearable. You could feel it in the crowd. That uneasy buzz that creeps in right before something goes horribly wrong. Matt Cardona stepped into the ring with confidence, maybe even arrogance. But was it bravery, or was it a fatal miscalculation? Let's pause right here for a second. Comment below. Did Matt Cardona underestimate Randy Orton? Or did he know exactly what he was walking into? Because what happened next? There's no preparing for that. Cardona grabbed the mic, pacing slowly, trying to control the crowd. He talked big. He talked loud. He talked like a man who believed this was his moment. A chance to stand across from one of the most dangerous men in WWE history and prove something. But here's the problem. You don't prove yourself to Randy Orton. You survive him. And even that is never guaranteed. Before Cardona could even finish his sentence, boom. The sound hit like a gunshot. RKO. Out of nowhere. No warning. No build-up. No hesitation. Just impact. The crowd exploded, but not in celebration. It was shock. Pure, unfiltered shock. Because Orton didn't just strike fast, he struck with intent. The kind of intent that says, this isn't over. Cardona hit the mat hard, clutching at nothing, trying to understand what just happened. But Orton? He didn't celebrate. He didn't taunt. He didn't even look at the crowd. He just stared down. Cold. Silent. Calculating. And that's when it got worse. Orton dropped to the mat and started pounding. Relentless, vicious strikes raining down on Cardona. No referee could stop him fast enough. Security hesitated. Nobody wanted to get close. Because when Randy Orton enters that zone, there's no reasoning with him. Let me ask you something. Be honest in the comments. Was that RKO justified? Or was this the moment Orton officially went too far? Because this didn't feel like justice. This felt personal. Cardona tried to roll out of the ring, desperation written all over him, but Orton followed like a predator that had already decided how this ends. Dragging him back, lifting him up just to slam him back down again. Over, and over, and over. Every move wasn't just punishment, it was a statement. You don't belong here. The crowd started to turn. Some were cheering. Others were uneasy. Because what they were witnessing wasn't a highlight. It was a dismantling. A complete erasure of a man's credibility in real time. And then came the moment that changed everything. Orton backed into the corner. That familiar look in his eyes. That twitch. That coiled out of destruction. Everyone knew what was coming. The voices in his head weren't just talking anymore. They were screaming. Cardona barely got to his knees, barely aware of where he even was, when Orton struck again. Another RKO. Even more brutal than the first. And just like that, it was over. Or was it? Because Orton didn't leave. He didn't walk away. He stood there looking at Cardona's lifeless body, breathing slowly, almost like he was deciding whether to stop or to keep going. That pause, that silence, that's what made it terrifying. Drop your thoughts right now. Should someone have stopped Orton sooner? Or was this exactly what SmackDown needed? Because the line between entertainment and chaos had officially been shattered. Officials finally rushed the ring, checking on Cardona, trying to create distance, but Orton? He stepped back willingly, not because he was done, but because he knew he had already made his point. And what a point it was. The camera zoomed in on Orton's face, and that's when you saw it. Not anger, not rage, satisfaction. The kind of satisfaction that comes from total control, from dominance, from reminding the entire locker room exactly who they're dealing with. But here's the twist nobody saw coming. As Orton turned to leave, he stopped halfway up the ramp, and slowly he looked back. Not at Cardona, at the ring, at the chaos he created, at the message he delivered. Because this wasn't about Matt Cardona anymore. It never was. It was about everyone watching, everyone in that locker room, everyone who thought they could step up and survive. Let's take a second here. This one's important. After what just happened, who in WWE can actually stop Randy Orton right now?
Think about it.
Because what we just witnessed wasn't just dominance, it was a warning shot to the entire roster. Orton isn't here to compete. He's here to dismantle. And if Cardona was just the beginning, then who's next? The aftermath inside the ring was chaotic. Medics rushed in. Officials barked orders. The crowd was still buzzing, trying to process what they had just seen. Cardona barely moved, his body telling a story his pride never would. And that's the cost. That's the price of stepping into the ring with someone like Randy Orton when he's in this state of mind. No mercy, no hesitation, no limits. But let's talk about something deeper for a moment. Because moments like this don't just happen. They build, they simmer,
They grow.
and something inside Randy Orton has clearly snapped, or maybe it's finally been unleashed. Because this version of Orton, this isn't the calculated veteran. This isn't the legend coasting on legacy. This is something else. Something dangerous. Something unpredictable. And that makes him the most terrifying version of all. Comment below. This one's going to divide people. Is this the best version of Randy Orton we've ever seen, or the most dangerous mistake WWE has allowed? Because if nobody steps in, if nobody stops him, then what we saw tonight, that won't be the peak. That'll just be the beginning. The camera cut backstage briefly, where superstars were watching on monitors, some shaking their heads, others silent. Because when something like this happens, it changes the entire locker room dynamic. Respect turns into fear. Confidence turns into doubt. And suddenly nobody feels safe. That's power. And Orton knows it. Back in the arena, the energy hadn't died down. Fans were still arguing, still reacting, still trying to decide whether they just witnessed greatness or something far more disturbing. Because here's the truth. It was both. Orton didn't just beat Matt Cardona. He humiliated him. He erased him. He made an example out of him in front of the entire world. And the scariest part? He did it effortlessly. No struggle. No resistance. Just complete and total domination. And now, the question isn't what happened. The question is, what happens next? Because someone always answers a message like that. Someone always steps up. The only problem is, who would be crazy enough to try? Let's get one more answer from you before this gets even crazier. If you were a WWE superstar watching this backstage, would you challenge Orton next week or stay far away? Be real. Because courage and stupidity can look very similar when Randy Orton is involved. The segment ended without music, without celebration, without closure. Just a lingering feeling that something had shifted, something had changed, and that nothing moving forward would be the same. Because when Randy Orton decides to remind the world who he is, there's always collateral damage. And this time, Matt Cardona was just the first victim, but definitely not the last.